playoff picture presented by AT&T. And I like that intro wild thing because that is exactly, I feel like, what this college football season has been, a very wild thing. Christine Williamson here, Matt Sims and Spencer Hall in the building as well. You guys, we finally figured out who is going to be in the college football playoff. You're either happy about it or you're pissed off. Whatever it is, we now know who's playing. What are your initial reactions to the CFP?
That we put SMU in because it's fun. There, I think that's it. Like, what? Give me any justification you want, and we will go through all of them here. But I will say this: putting SMU in, it's fun. I think we prioritize players that we want to see. I think we prioritize a little bit of spectacle, and I think we said if you have 3 losses, it should be pretty hard for you to get into the playoff.
That's true. And you know what? I'm here for the fun. I'm excited for SMU. I look forward to their first round matchup, but still. What did we learn about this? Well, I look forward to the second iteration of the college football playoff because this first go-around, it has been extremely taxing in my mind, body, and soul, and what actually values. Like, I mean, like, what do we stand for? The strength of schedule, this, that. Too many calculations in my brain. We got to make it very simple, right? You're the top 12 or you're not. Are you in, you out? And everyone's got to play. No more buys. Let's get rid of those buys. Yeah,
the bracket plus the ranking is so confusing because even if you're ranked in the top 12, which obviously it figured itself out this season, but even if you're ranked in the top 12, you can still be left out of the CFP.
That's right.
Based
and like
on
Clemson
who wins
16.
Exactly.
And they're in it. Like,
it's so confusing.
What are we doing?
I feel like they have to change it just a tad, or at least be very clear with what
that would be helpful.
Why they're choosing certain teams, because they haven't been very clear this season. But whatever, we can talk about our gripes in a little bit. It's time now for the CFP Bracket Challenge presented by AT&T. We're going to take a look at who we think should win the whole dang thing. Matt Sims, you see what we have here. You start us off. Who do you think should and will win the CFP this season?
Okay, so I am going to go with Oregon as our national champion to start here. And here, let's go throw real quick through this. All right, so this Clemson-Texas matchup, we'll kind of go through it again as we discuss these things, but I'll go with Texas with the first round. I'm taking Ohio State to beat Tennessee. I think that's going to be a really interesting matchup, especially with the strengths of 2 teams and how they match up in this one. All right, I'm going to go with the favorite here at home, and then I'm actually going to take the Hoosiers on the road there in that one. Okay. Now, we get a rematch, I think, of one of the more entertaining football games that we saw all season. I'm going to continue to stick with Dillon Gabriel and his experience at that quarterback position. I trust Will Stein in that offense. I think they got enough weapons on offense to keep the rhythm going. I take that win there. Now, in this one-off game. Really interesting matchup. I mean, we almost kind of trust Kenny Dillingham almost in this one-off game because it's such a tough matchup for him. But I'm going to take the more talented, deeper team, right, in this one for a Texas-Oregon. Now, for these right here, okay, I can't do it.
That's
all right,
fine.
like it's a great story, Cinderella, but it comes to an end there against one of the hardest-hitting football teams and battle-tested teams all season. This one is another interesting matchup. Going to go with Penn State. And now this is where it gets fun. Of course, I just said Oregon's going to win the national championship. I think just the overall management of the team by Dan Lanning has been extremely impressive, right? I think that the defense can make enough plays, right, and rush the passer consistently enough to slow down Texas. And then
before you get to that,
go ahead.
Why do you have Spencer? Do you have a question about the Oregon?
I do. I want to know how this goes. How does this look?
This game to me really can go 2 different ways. It could be like super high scoring, or it could be super low scoring. Now, what I really trust, again, is just Dillon Gabriel, the RPO passing game, the 2 running backs, and their ability to be physical in that run style. And I think stretching out the Texas defense sideline to sideline, because that's what Dillon does so phenomenally well throughout the season. He's not like an over-the-middle thrower, right? He is great on the outside, beyond the numbers, right? Up the seam. He's a very aggressive decision maker. He's a clean decision maker. We saw that again last night in the Big Ten championship game. Now, Texas, I think one of the strengths of their football team is their secondary. So that is really going to be one of those, like, what do you value more? I'm always going to go with, I think, just the better decision maker at the quarterback position and the player that has the hotter hand. And right now, to me, that's Dillon Gabriel.
Okay.
Is that enough? Is that
No, I'm buying it.
All right. I wasn't sure if I was selling it enough, you know. The defense scares me, though, a little bit. Two teams that, you know, are quote-unquote good offenses, Penn State and Ohio State, which is debatable. They have given up with a lot of points, Oregon. And then Georgia, Penn State. I just think Georgia being there, done that, right, and just knowing what the moment is like. Kirby Smart being just one of the best coaches, really the best coach in all of college football, preparing his football team in situations like this. So I think we got an Oregon-Georgia championship for this first go around of the playoffs.
Okay.
Okay.
And I'm gonna go with Oregon, right?
Okay. Why do you say of course?
Well, because I said Oregon's gonna win the championship.
that's
Started
true.
off.
You did
That's
already
right.
say
Yeah.
Yeah, he's pot committed
I'm like,
here.
Yeah, that's
I
right,
forgot
that's
you said
right.
that at the very beginning.
That was the point of the exercise, I think.
Why do you have Oregon over Georgia?
So for Oregon over Georgia, right, I think this matchup is interesting in a lot of ways, and it really goes to, can Georgia consistently, right, move the football down the field, right? And that's really the biggest question mark I have for this football team. Mike Bobo and the offense, it's kind of like, which one are we going to see? Which offense will show up? Can you run the football consistently? If it's a pass-heavy football team with a potential Gunnar Stockton at quarterback, I kind of think that favors Oregon because they have a good secondary. They have good overall team speed on the defensive side of the football. They have some really good pass rushers that'll be playing on Sunday, Birch being one of them. So I think that favors Oregon's style of play in this championship game.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, we also know that their offense depends on the health of their quarterback, Carson Beck, who obviously has plenty of time to figure out what exactly is going on, but he's still, 30 days that they have until they have to figure it out, 3 whole weeks?
Yeah,
no doubt.
But still, the health of their quarterback depends on how that offense looks. All right, Spencer, he has Oregon winning it all. Let's reset the bracket.
Reset. It's up here somewhere.
It's up. We can do it.
Okay, wait.
There we go.
All right, we got
I
it.
was
We
like, I
did
don't know
it.
what
We did
cancel
it.
means,
We
but that
did
doesn't
it.
look
Yeah,
right.
I got
In
nervous there too. I thought it was
in rehearsals, we vaporized Texas, so we're not going to do that.
That was
Don't do that
my
again.
fault.
Don't do
My
that
bad.
again.
We're not going to do
Okay,
that.
Spence, who do you
Amateur
have
mode.
winning the whole thing?
All right, so I'm going to go ahead
Okay.
and say this, that we get a little bit of veteran savvy here. We get the very experienced Clemson staff with this team who, by the way, the worst thing's already happened to them, right? They've already
Exactly.
lost 3 games. This is all house money, all right? So I want to set up the house money versus house money combination. Right
Finally
here.
get an SEC win too, right? This year.
We can finally get an SEC win for the Clemson Tigers. They're going to face Arizona State, okay? Again, because I can do whatever I want here. It's going to get ugly at Ohio State. Let's just start it now.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
Might
I
as
didn't
well.
want to come across as a biased Vols guy, but I
Right.
appreciate you doing it.
I will say this, and
Good for you.
as a Florida grad, full disclosure, no homer instincts here for me, okay? I don't want to see it, but I think it could happen just because I like Tennessee's defensive line and the ability to wreak havoc against the Ohio State offensive front.
Right.
So that's Tennessee v. Oregon here. SMU, Penn State, it would be real cool if SMU won this. They're not going to. Penn State's going to advance against Boise State.
Hell of a breakdown.
Yeah.
It would be cool.
Real
but they're not
cool.
going
Not
to.
It'd be cool, but it ain't happening.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, in case you don't think I'm a romantic, what says romance more than Bloomington, Indiana? I'm going to go ahead and put Indiana up against Georgia. Okay, and at this point,
Wow.
yes, Cinderella.
Notre Dame doesn't like us.
Cinderella can go home because Georgia advances. Here, Penn State, Boise State, more interesting than you think, but I think Andy Kotelnicki has changed the complexion and everything that they're doing
Agree.
offensively.
Yes.
I just don't think they have the horses to keep up. Boise State, ironically enough. Oregon and Tennessee, I love Oregon. I just think they're a more complete team. They do everything faster, quicker, and better than you. And if you drop a sandwich, they're going to eat it. Okay, they take advantage of every mistake you make,
Yeah.
and they
Like
cash in
ducks
on
do.
it.
Yeah.
Yes, like ducks.
Okay.
Exactly. They want that. Yeah, ducks and hustlers. They want that bread, right? That's exactly what they do. Clemson, Arizona State. This is a fascinating game.
It is.
This
Yeah.
is the most dangerous quadrant here, I
Yes.
think, in terms of coaches who will just do some stuff,
Yeah.
all right, and take huge chances in these games. But I still think that at this point, Arizona State.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. This
Man.
Is, the ghost of the Pac-12 is going to be representing real hard here.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I
That's
like
cute.
it.
That's
Yeah.
kind of cute.
Also, like the colder it gets,
run it back.
The colder it gets, the more I rely on the run game. And I know Arizona State has one thing we can depend on, and it is a vicious, violent run
That's
game
true.
running straight through Cam Scatterboot. And they will use it. They will run 40, 50 times a game happily. So I love this. I love this final.
Yeah.
This collection in the semifinals. I'm going to have Oregon advance because, again, faster, meaner, quicker. They will catch you back-footed. They will catch you on something that you didn't even know you were making a mistake on. And then Penn State, Georgia, historical classic here. I will go ahead and say this is a point of attack game, and very few teams are better at the point of attack than Georgia. So
Right.
we end up with this same game. This is where I will differ.
Yeah.
Football doesn't always have to be smart. In fact, it's often not smart.
That's right.
Okay? Kirby Smart, this might be his weakest team in 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And it might not matter because I have seen them scrap together 22-19 games. I have seen them win without their starting quarterback. I have seen them just beat people into submission. I know that if this goes into the 3rd or 4th quarter, they don't care.
That's
Did you
right.
see what they were doing to Texas? They were playing man. They're just daring you to do
Is
something
that
smart.
amazing, right?
Just
no doubt.
Manning up and saying, okay, cool, we'll
Yeah.
ball.
Right.
I think in this case, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take Georgia and put them.
He lives in Atlanta, Georgia, by the way.
Loath as I am
No
to
bias.
do that, all right? Because in the end, I think brute force wins out, and there is no team on this board with more brute force than the Georgia Bulldogs.
So you're not at all concerned about the health of Carson Beck?
No, I'm not, because I honestly don't think, like, if I had to put money on it, if I'm just going to go ahead and say, hey, I don't think he's going to make it. Even if he's in there, he won't be that much of a difference. And I think that's okay with them. They can win these low-scoring games because they're going to revert to defense first, trying to get you on turnovers. You've seen they've already pulled out the bag of tricks.
Yeah.
A fake punt was one of the things that
Yeah.
decided this game.
Yeah, for sure.
And Kirby, the way that he managed the game too, even against Georgia Tech, right? And just how he was able to, I think, buy the time for his team, right? And the situation every single time, right? Through those overtimes. I mean, he's burning every time out that he's given, right? So the guy is prepared and ready to go.
That tweet is hilarious.
That is awesome.
Listen.
Right there.
Carson Beck.
Only the real ones know, right, what that is.
Yeah.
But, you know,
That was the start of Florida State's demise, by the way, but go on.
that was it. And that's all. We don't even have enough show to start that discussion. But that would be a phenomenal file. I think for all of us football fans, like that would really be, I think, just like the cherry on top of an unbelievable football season. You know, for Carson Beck being out, I agree with you. I still think that Georgia has the winning ability, right, to overcome their quarterback being out with Gunnar Stockton. And honestly, I thought that the offense looked a little bit more in rhythm with Gunnar Stockton as their starting quarterback.
Well, they don't have film on him either.
That's true.
true.
Yeah,
That's
with
true.
no
That was the biggest
tendencies.
thing.
Everything's a surprise.
And who is he like? Who would be the comp for Gunnar, right, in Georgia in this situation?
Are we Cardale in it?
It's
this a Cardale Jones
Cardale
situation?
Jones and Ohio State all over again. It's like, hey, it's not too big for us. We don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Let's just cut it loose.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so Spencer and Matt, they have Oregon and Georgia winning it all. But you guys know that there's 10 other teams that could win it all. So
That's right.
you guys want either of these teams to be broken down, Notre Dame, Ohio State, or Texas, we will break it down. Just go to the poll on YouTube. It's up there. And you guys are going to have to tell us how these teams are going to win.
We take requests.
Yeah.
We
We might do more than one, too. So they're all very good. Okay. So as we know, there are other teams that have to try to make a run for the CFP. One of those teams is the Mountain West champ, Boise State.
Started from the ground up, whole team built around us. We start to get some wins and watch the crowd surround us.
You have to battle day in and day out to figure out how to get to the mountaintop.
How you do anything is how you do everything. Being the best possible version of yourself on a day-to-day basis.
This is our lifestyle here. That's who we are. We are on a journey right now.
Now we sit on top.
Let's go to work. Ready, breakdown.
Oh, look at Jeanty go! You can't bring him down! He's unbelievable! My goodness, are you serious? Boy, is this kid special.
The Jeanty Express on his way to a possible Heisman.
You put up the numbers, young man. You can make that pose. This offense revolves around number 2, but they're an excellent team that happens to have one of the best running backs. They've built a fine program around him.
Believe it today. Show it today. All the work you put in comes to fruition today.
We started from a dream. We had to build a team. We had to learn new things. It's harder than it seems.
Boise State continues to add in the end zone.
They went to Oregon and almost won.
We are in this together.
Boise State, Mountain West champions, and on the way to the college football playoff.
Yes, that is right. The number 3 seed, Boise State, is in. They're so hyped for it, too. They play the winner of SMU and Penn State in the CFP. So when you guys look at that matchup, SMU, Penn State, who do you think is a better matchup for Boise State?
SMU.
SMU.
Oh yeah, by far.
Yeah.
Because they will not have the same degree of talent
Right.
across the board. They will not be as mean at the point of contact, and they will also not have Abdul Carter. That's
True.
Yeah. If I can play the team that doesn't have him,
That's true.
I will select that team
No
because
doubt.
in the run game, you've seen Ashton Jeanty would have as steep a challenge as he's had all year long with that Penn State defense. Now, I will say this too. Jeanty's been seeing 9 to 10 guys in that box. He's been seeing nothing but traffic. But that is the team. I would select SMU because SMU, again, they're a house money team. They're lucky to be here, and that's really cool.
Yep.
And they might surprise some people. But overall, if I'm looking at what I've got on paper, yeah, they're the pick.
Yeah, and it just matches the style in which they play. I mean, for Penn State, right, the physicality, their ability and depth on the defensive line would totally be an issue.
Yeah.
Right, and just their overall, skill set and how their team is built, I think is within that front seven on both sides of the football. So I think that would really be the toughest matchup for them. And the other aspect, too, is just Drew Allen and the way that he's been playing, too, with Andy as the offensive coordinator this year has been phenomenal. And the growth at the position that he has had, other than maybe Cade Klubnik and a few others, he is one of the most improved college football players in one season, and that's because of coaching. So that really is the difference for Penn State and this team this year.
I want to talk about Ashton Jeanty a little bit because I feel like when we've talked about Boise State this season, that's why it has been Ashton Jeanty. He had 192 yards, 3 touchdowns in Boise State's lone game versus another team in this playoff that was Oregon. How far can the Broncos ride Jeanty specifically, Spencer?
Well, they've gotten this far.
True.
That's right.
Right? So why not any further? Jeanty has showed no signs of slowing down. He had a little bit of an ebb around game 8 or 9, and then from that point forward has just resumed normal production. So when I say that his production slowed down, I mean he went from averaging 14 yards a carry to averaging, 6 or 7. He's still a first down every 2 downs if you're running him. And he's been super impressive. I think the thing that Boise needs offensively, they need to take advantage of all those open receivers off play action. That's something that they still, I think, haven't maxed out on.
And it's hard to do that because it's working when they give the ball to Ashton Jeanty. So it's why go away from what's been working? If it's not broke, don't fix it. So in this case, Maddox Madison, we saw him make a few big throws against UNLV in tight coverage, man-to-man looks. That's essentially what they're going to have to do, though, in some of these bigger games against tougher matchups is contested throws, make those big catches. They showed up big time against UNLV. But that's what's concerning, though, too, for Boise State. UNLV did a really good job of controlling the line of scrimmage at times and getting penetration behind the line of scrimmage, slowing down Ashton Jeanty's first initial push into that line of scrimmage. So that's a concern, I think, for them in the long run is can they continuously get that push? Because Ashton's awesome after contact.
Yeah.
Incredible.
He's fantastic, but if he can't get ahead of steam, it's going to be very difficult for him to get going.
Okay, so assuming that they win that first game against SMU or Penn State, who do you think is going to give Boise State the biggest challenge after that?
Really the field. Right, because I think just for Boise State.
Did you have them coming out of that first? I don't remember what you guys did.
So
in that round.
so they'll get the bye.
Right.
So we're looking at that. Let's assume they get past either SMU or Penn State. We pull off a Cinderella victory, which at one point, by the way, would be the greatest victory in the history of Boise State football to this point, and they've got some big ones. At that point, they're either going to face who? Indiana, Notre Dame, or Georgia. Nobody wants to face Georgia.
Heck no.
Especially not in this kind of a setting. I would not want to try to run up the middle on them. I wouldn't want to try to run up the side on them. Notre Dame, by the way, also capable of swallowing the run game at times. So I think Indiana's probably the one that they want out of here. That's not who they're going to get.
And let's remember, too, Notre Dame, maybe not the most talented defensive front that they could see, but Al Golden is a phenomenal defensive mind. Right. And for a one-off football game, I would trust him with my defense and making the right calls at the right time to stop, a team that is one-dimensional at times.
Yeah. Let's move on to another team that a lot of people see. This is the thing about the 12-team playoff that I feel like we've underestimated is the fact that we've always talked about the teams on the top regardless. We haven't been talking about Arizona State. We haven't been talking about Boise State. So let's talk a little bit more about Arizona State, specifically the winners of the Big 12, who were picked last at the beginning of the season to finish this conference playoffs last, which obviously did not happen. Cam Scadaboo.
Dude.
A pretty good guy.
Yeah.
He's pretty okay.
Dude.
When you think about what he's able to do, specifically in this playoffs, are we sleeping on this team at all?
It'd be very hard not to sleep on them simply because I see a lot of people online and in real life going, they won? Arizona State?
That's why I'm saying, we haven't had enough conversations about these teams.
Arizona State considered, by the way, shouts out to my own podcast, the Fullcast, that came up with, please consider Arizona State. The world must consider Arizona State now. I think we have been sleeping on them, especially because the kind of ball they're playing, we think it's just running through one guy. We think it's just running through Cam Scadaboo. This has been a team performance, something that I think I hope people appreciate that he is the cornerstone, but this is a lovely building. This is a fantastic piece of construction that they've done in Tempe.
Lovely building. Yeah.
I'm over here doing my forks up. Matt, your thoughts on
and Arizona State, this is where, Spencer and I, we agree with just Kenny Dillingham and his ability to coach and manage football games and his experience. Although being a young football coach,
34.
He does manage like a wise old guru on top of the mountaintop, right? And the way that he goes. And the energy that he has on the sideline is just infectious, I think, to this football team. Sam Levitt's playing really good football. Of course, Tyson being out was a huge miss, and we thought that was going to be the reason why Arizona State lost this game. And they still found ways to win. And his bravery. I was going to use another word, but I'll pause and use another.
Moxie.
His coconuts, I should say. Right. And the 4th and inches there to start the game there in the first quarter, and he takes a shot to Stovall with his quarterback. Right when it's like it's so easy. Give the ball to Cam Scadaboo. He goes front and 4th and it just takes a shot, and it ends up being a 63-yard completion. And from there, I feel like Arizona State took all the momentum.
Can I just say, if you want to know who Kenny Dillingham is, I can translate him for you. He is of the generation of coaches that grew up, yes, coaching on the field and playing.
Right.
Also played a lot of video game football. And there is no more video game football call than if you are at 4th and 1 and you bomb it 50 yards downfield. I know those thumbs have calluses. I know.
That is amazing.
I know you've been playing.
That is amazing.
No doubt. Yeah.
It's
He's probably
so
playing right now.
That the fact that he's 34 years old is actually mind-boggling to me, especially where he's taken this Arizona State team. Do you think that they're, outside of Oregon, is a more confident team than this Arizona State team as they go into the CFP?
That's a good point. No, I mean, they have to be up there. And very similar to what you were saying with SMU, just playing with house money. It's like they have nothing to lose. And I feel like everyone would be a little bit, nervous to walk into a matchup with them because of their head coach and because of the way they play.
They go to the Big 12, just win the whole thing.
Most nothing to lose from out there. Yeah, and I say that because SMU lost.
Right.
Arizona State, they even got to the championship game, and they just kept going. So, like, in terms of sheer irrational bravery, Arizona State is number 1.
And you need it.
Okay, let's talk about the people that aren't too happy, okay? Because it's so funny. We were like, expand the playoffs and then everybody will be happy. But no, that's not how it works, because even in March, we're mad that the team 69 didn't make it into the final bracket. So when it comes to the CFP and how everything went down this season, I feel like it was a little confusing because you have we talked about this a little bit where we were over by the touchscreen. You have 1 through 12, but the rankings, they barely matter because, again, you have to get the conference champs into the CFP, wherever they fall in the rankings. And that is the reason that so many people wanted Clemson to win that game, because that meant that there was going to be a little bit of chaos. Maybe there was a 5.6% chance that Miami would make it into the CFP. I believe it was because of that game right there. So when it comes to how things went down this season, year 1, how did you feel about everything, Spence?
I'm largely okay with it because we have a pretty cool tourney. And I think that's what you want. We're creating, I think some people might think of it as this is science and there will be this process to determine a champion. This is a better way of determining a champion than I think we've had in a long time. And it is essentially a series of exhibition games. I would also say this, though, and this is something that we were talking about pre-show that I don't know if we properly considered. The halfway point in the season was like just before Thanksgiving if you add in the entire scope of the playoff. Meaning, we're about to go through what some teams are going to play 3-4 bowl games in addition to their normal schedule and a conference championship game. The length of time it's going to take to complete this, you're going to eat so many Christmas cookies by the time this is done. You're going to go through an entire cycle of weight gain and shame by the time this is over.
You'll be ready for the New Year resolution.
You'll be ready.
We know that.
Right now, you are in the indulgence phase. You will be fully in the resolution phase by the time this is over. And that, to me, is a challenge that I don't know. I mean, nobody has negotiated this yet. Nobody has really tried it. So I'm intrigued. I think it's a cool way. I think it presents new challenges that we're going to see people solve in real time.
And I think that's why we favored, when we go through these brackets, the guys and the coaches that have kind of been around the old system and had success in the old system, because they'll just know how to manage and really just build a schedule for their football team to live and die by, right? Because one thing that I said to Spencer is you don't want to peak too soon. You don't want to play your best football the first round. You want to make sure that you are a team that is building this momentum. And this is why I wouldn't be shocked if even like in the NFL, how we see teams in the wild card get hot and win the Super Bowl, like our team, the New York Giants, right? How they did twice. This is a possibility, and I think this is something that, is going to be exciting and refreshing. We're going to see matchups we've never seen before, and we're going to see teams forced to manage games the way we've never seen before.
I know
as
which
well.
team has an early lead on personnel management and rest management, and that's Clemson. Because if you watch where Clemson was, everyone else, Notre Dame, everybody in chairs, sitting in front of a camera, right? Boise,
Dressed
we were
perfectly.
all dressed perfectly, right?
Yeah.
Boise was all in the practice room, all lined up. They did some celebrating. They were a little casual, all right? Most casual, Clemson, the veteran team. What were they doing? Pizza.
Yeah,
Pizza party.
225 boxes of pizza?
Yeah,
Pizza party.
like a 22-year-old guy back there flexing on the camera. Like that's I
How
think
good
the
can
move.
the pizza be though in Clemson? I mean,
Listen,
like,
I lived in Clemson for 2 years.
it's
There's
good
actually
pizza?
really good food there.
Okay, good.
I don't know about the pizza, but there's good food. Okay, so you guys wanted a team. That team is Texas. Here's how they got to where they are now.
New year, new identity in the Southeastern Conference. We're ready to go.
Longhorn Nation, just the start.
Look at Morris, baby.
I'm ready.
And they are whooping up on the defending national champion.
Come around 'cause I'm breaking the chain.
And Ewers now in a tremendous amount of discomfort. As Arch Manning, the famous surname in the ballgame, now fires. Touchdown Texas with the two-step. Arch Manning.
I think Arch is always ready to play. I thought he came and did a really nice job. It's good to finally get back out on the field.
Touchdown, Georgia. It's all dogs in Austin so far.
Stadium is unhinged.
This is about an offensive line that's getting whipped by Georgia's defensive fronts.
We have to learn and endure the losses. Get back to playing our brand, our style of football.
Texas can do no wrong today. Stop of the year. The Longhorns are headed to the SEC Championship.
We got one more to go. We got to keep going. SEC Championship, book them boys. Let's go.
Overtime to decide the Southeastern Conference Championship.
Touchdown, Georgia, SEC champions.
This one stings, but we get a chance to regroup here in a couple weeks and go compete for a national championship.
They were so close. Okay, so here's how y'all voted in the YouTube poll. You had Texas as the top team you wanted to see Matt and Spencer talk about. Yeah, 41%, 30 to 29. All right, so we're gonna do that. The losers of the SEC championship, they almost did it, but they did prove that they should be in the SEC, I feel like, this season. Yeah. So how can Texas make it all the way to the championship?
I'm going to take the first round.
Go, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to take Texas, and we're going to go ahead and say, yes, they processed Clemson. Because on paper, they really should be a better team. Like, I think that Texas,
That
across
makes
the
sense.
board, if I'm just pointing point for point, I think on paper, better team. They get over it. I think they're a little more potent than Clemson offensively.
Right.
I think defensively, they're either as good or slightly better. So I'm going to go ahead and bump them in.
Secondary can definitely lock down Cade Klubnik in the passing.
Right,
Yep.
right. Like Cade Klubnik, I think, is good. I don't know if head-to-head with the Texas defense, he's going to be a different striker.
Right.
Okay, you're on to round two.
Okay, so now we'll do this game real quick. I'm gonna do this. I'll be a homer. Okay. Now
Might as well.
the best thing for Texas in this matchup would be for Tennessee to come up with a huge upset, right? Because Tennessee, I think there's still big question marks with them offensively and just how sustainable that is for 4-game stretch. All right. So still in this one though, the better football team is
100%.
Oregon. So this would be a Texas-Oregon matchup. Now, why does Texas beat Arizona State? They beat Arizona State because they have more depth, essentially, on every phase of the football team, right? And that's the defensive line, right? The linebacking core, and that's really the group that we would highlight too in this one, right? Cam Scatterbo, he's the man, right? You got to stop that guy, right? How do you do that? Well, that's Anthony Hill. That's Benda, the two linebackers that have been playing phenomenal football right there and making sure that they were doing a great job of reading some of that RPO passing game and then converging in the middle of that defense and making big physical hits at the line of scrimmage on Cam Scatterbo. So that's how they would get that victory. And then, I have full faith that they will be able to be efficient and balanced running the football, right, with Wisner, but also still be aggressive with their skill group and the passing attack with their receiver, running back screens, and their double plays off of those.
Okay, let's execute part two of this.
Yes.
Okay.
Since we're just having fun here. Oh my gosh, look, SMU upset.
Wow.
Okay, this is fun. This is fun. Don't yell at us, all right? Yeah, that's right. This is fun.
You told us to do this part.
This is
This
entertainment.
part's for us.
Yeah.
Here. Oh,
Let's
look at
give
that.
one to Notre Dame,
Sure,
yeah.
We'll give one to Notre Dame. We'll give one to Notre Dame here, but we'll also assume here that Georgia advances because they're a better football team.
That's right.
SMU and Boise State. The Quirky Bowl, like the most interesting. This is the Indy
That's
Bowl,
actually an
right?
amazing
It's the
name.
most fascinating
Yes.
thing is what happens.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and bet on Ashton Jeanty. Wow, there we go.
Love that.
Yeah. Now this gets us two.
Okay.
Let's just say Georgia bottles up Boise State.
Right.
The dream dies here, and Georgia.
A rematch of
Texas, Oregon.
the SEC.
All right, so you want me to take this one?
Sure, yeah.
All
Go
right,
ahead.
so Texas, Oregon. This is going to be a phenomenal matchup for us, and this is where I think for Texas, it definitely is one of those, you can't be one-dimensional and super pass happy.
Right.
You have to do exactly what Penn State did in the Big Ten Championship. You have to run the football consistently with Contravian Wisner, right? And how is that? Multiple formations, the shifts, the motions. You have to confuse the Oregon defense, spread them out as much as possible, and then be able to, have those aggressive, explosive runs.
Yeah.
If they're one-dimensional in this football game, I think it plays into Oregon's hands
Makes
and their
sense.
secondary. But I think overall, Texas, with their defensive line and their skill group, right, the defensive back group, I think that they can cover Oregon. And I think that they can make it very difficult for Dylan Gabriel. With their defensive line, I think they can collapse the pocket. And Dylan Gabriel's not the biggest passer, right, in the country. If you can make him feel even smaller in the pocket, I think this is where Texas has a huge advantage over Oregon and collapsing the pocket.
One real specific one here, hands up. This is
Hands
something
up.
You can definitely do this along the defensive line.
That's right.
And disrupt that quick game, because if you don't disrupt that quick game with Oregon, you are DE dead.
That's a great point.
Now, Texas,
Third
Georgia.
time's a charm.
Third time's a charm.
I will tell you, first of all, I don't have to get you to buy into this because it was 22-19. It was already.
We saw it.
Yeah.
We saw it. It was already real close.
Yeah.
I also feel like Texas can learn a lesson because 2 games in a row they've forgotten something. They've forgotten the interior run game. They
Right.
really decided to work on the perimeter, and it has not worked. I will go ahead and assume a dangerous thing, that somebody will learn a lesson and that they will focus on the power run game like Texas has in the 2 games prior leading up to the SEC championship game. So lean on that. Demand that Georgia score, because if you're able to put up some points and then off play action and getting some space in the secondary, you exploit some deep shots, you score some points, I think it can happen.
And Texas passed the football extremely well against Kirby Smart and this team, right? And not necessarily where it was like 50-50 footballs and all that. Like, it was really concise and calculated shots down the football field where they were getting people wide open. In the second half, a little bit different. But to your point, right, to piggyback off that, Texas and Sarkisian, be patient with that interior running attack. I think for Texas at times, they're so used to being able to move the football explosively down the football field in these big chunks that they kind of are like, oh, a gain of 2? Well, we actually lost yardage on that play because of how they think. And that's where Georgia, I think, did a great job. Couldn't run the football well in the beginning of the game, but we're like, hey, we're not going to leave it. We're going to continue to be patient, being physical between the tackles, and eventually late in the game, you saw Etienne and Frazier hitting some big ones that were big in that game. So Texas, take a page out of Georgia's playbook in that one.
And that's how you beat Georgia finally. Congratulations, Texas.
Damn.
And win the championship. That would actually matter more than the other 2 losses, I'm not gonna lie. All right, guys, that's all we got for you.
That was personal.
Georgia winning, Oregon winning, or maybe Texas winning. We'll see what happens in the CFP. Thanks for watching Playout Picture presented by AT&T. Enjoy all the college football. I know you will.